Good evening, everybody. We are in for a treat here. To be honest with you, things are looking more and more likely as we go through the last couple days and into the next couple days. Things are definitely trending in the direction of snow for the snow lovers here along the Grand Strand. So we're going to dive deep into everything, and boy, do I have a lot of information to cover in a very short amount of time because I want to keep everybody's attention. But I don't want to overhype something and I don't want to underhype it either. So we're going to kind of meet in the middle here tonight as we start discussing what we have to look forward to here over the next couple days. And I'll be honest with you, winter storm watches are already in place. I can pause. Let me stop this. We're looking at a loop of the GFS here over the next couple days, but I'm going to stop that for right now. And we're going to take a look at um, the watches and warnings here really quick. I'm gonna get that up on the screen here for you. So we've got winter storm watches in place for the entire South Carolina state. So the entire state of South Carolina, almost the entire state of North Carolina, and then much of Virginia as well. So we've got winter storm watches in place, even extending down into Georgia, even into Atlanta, Georgia, where they're expected to see a little bit of snowfall as well with this as we go through the weekend and into Sunday. So, how's all this going to transpire? Well, right now we can take a look at the GFS. And since I have that up, and then we'll hop into pivotal weather here and we'll go over some of the other models. So, we're going to start out here on, let's go out to the beginning of the storm here. So, we got Friday. Apologize here. I'm trying to get my numbers in order here. Here's Friday night at 10 p.m. Okay, some snow showers out and about around the area, and then eventually get a little bit of freezing precipitation there, maybe some sleet, freezing rain. Mixed in with that, out ahead of the cold air starting to move in. But as you get into Saturday by 10 a.m., the GFS already is bringing a shower or snow into the area. A little bit, a couple showers here along the beach. So things are still a little bit up in the air exactly where those temperatures are going to be at that point. But again, this is only the GFS, and this is usually the outlier here. So we're not going to focus too much of attention on this, but we're going to get really, really deep into timing here relatively shortly when we hop into the pivotal weather models. But this doesn't really give a real good depiction, but I can show you that the proof is in the pudding here. There is snow coming for our area. So the GFS is showing that, and that's why I brought this up at the beginning of the broadcast here tonight, just to kind of tease people a little bit and let them know we are going to see some snow. So, no need to worry about that. But we're going to hop into the pivotal weather and bring that information up here as well. So, we're in pivotal weather here. Got the models up. This is the overall GFS. This is what it's going to look like as we start moving through the next couple days. So here we are out on Friday. Not a whole lot going on. There's a couple snow showers over top of Kentucky, and those will work south and east as well, getting into the upstate, western North Carolina, those areas, and eventually working through Saturday morning, overnight into Saturday morning. Western South Carolina is starting to see that snow by 7 a.m. So we're going to work through the day there. The GFS has snow starting to fall near the beaches a little bit. I would say probably roughly around 10 a.m. We would start seeing some of that snow here, and then this low pressure just starts to explode as we go through the day on Saturday and into Sunday, the overnight hours Sunday, and eventually into Sunday morning, where a secondary surface low forms right off the coast here again. So not only do we have this area of low pressure here that forms, a secondary area of low pressure is going to form after that right here between South Carolina and North Carolina, not too far off the coast. So that's going to start to amplify and work its way up into the northeast as well. So GFS is a little bit further out now for the northeast impacts, but we're going to compare that to a couple other model runs. But overall, by I would say early Sunday morning by sunrise, the GFS has things pretty much cleared up and out of here. I'm not going to talk about totals at all, period, right now. And I'll explain that here in a little while, why I am not going to discuss accumulation totals. But we want to kind of go over the models and see what things are looking like. Now, let's hop over. I'm going to back this up so that way we start right on the Euro when I change my models here to the European. So we'll hop into the European, and we're going to take everything out nationally, and then we'll kind of zoom in locally and see what these models look like here for us locally. But I want you to get the big picture of how powerful this storm, the models are actually making this storm. So we're out here Friday overnight into Saturday, still showing some of those snow showers out for Kentucky, Tennessee, Western South Carolina. We'll start seeing some of those in the early morning hours of Saturday, and then eventually the GFS around 10 a.m., 11 has the snow starting to move into our area. So we start to see that snow start to funnel in and kind of take over for the rest of the day on Saturday. And here we are out the overnight hours of Sunday. Eventually, you can see that 979 low pressure out there right between South Carolina and North Carolina again. And by the early morning hours before sunrise here, the European has the storm moving out and up the East Coast. Again, following a very similar track of what the GFS is following and what the GFS was showing. So very similar in that nature. Things are starting to come together. Models are starting to agree a little bit on what the track of this system is going to be, and looks like we're getting that optimal track here for snowfall along the Grand Strand. So what do we have to look forward to here? Let's zoom in and get a little bit closer to home here. We're going to take this local. This will cover South Carolina and Georgia. It's as close as I can get, folks, but you can see Myrtle Beach on the map. So we're going to take this back to the beginning of the storm here. And we're out at 1 a.m. on Saturday. A couple snow showers around here in Florence and moving a little bit closer to the Grand Strand. 4 a.m., 7 a.m., you're starting to see that snowfall falling in Greenville. Some of these darker shade blues are a very heavy, moderate to heavy snowfall at that point for the mountains there in Greenville. And then eventually that starts to work its way eastward here. And the Euro is bringing everything in to our area between 1 and 4 p.m. here. You can see those heavier bands of snow are starting to work their way through. And this is why it's really, really hard to make that determination on the total amount of accumulation, because you might have a foot of snow in Conway, and in Carolina Forest you might have 4 inches. So it's going to be really, really difficult to figure out, and this is why. Dry air. Okay, so the GFS model here is wanting to bring and wrap around some dry air into the system. So these browns are very dry air, the blues are very moist air, and the greens are somewhere in between, about 50-60%. Okay, so you can watch over the next couple days as this here is our upper level low here that has formed, and we'll start pushing down. There's high pressure out here to the west that's pushing this down. That Arctic high pressure, Canada high pressure, is pushing this mid-level low down to South Carolina, where we'll eventually here we'll see that low pressure system develop here off the coast. But as just watch through this as we go through the day on Saturday. Here's Saturday morning. You can see we're pretty moist here along the coast, but then it wants to wrap in behind it as that surface low forms out here, starting to wrap in some of that dry air behind. And that can really mess up snow accumulation totals. So really depending on how much dry air gets pushed into this system is really going to determine the amount of accumulations. Now here you can see early morning hours of Sunday, overnight Saturday into early morning Saturday, Sunday, we're at 100% here on our relative humidity. So a lot of moisture there, but that quickly changes throughout the system here. So here you can see really early morning, really late night hours of Saturday, a lot of dry air being pumped into the area, and then eventually we get to that moist air again. So we're going to see some of that, and this is where the banding starts. So you're going to start seeing bands of heavy snow, bands of light snow. Those can accumulate differently because not everybody is going to see that particular amount of snow the whole way through the state of South Carolina. So storm totals can be impacted greatly because of that. So I'm going to watch this over the next 24 hours here before I give you any kind of snow totals. Um, I would say right now, conservatively, 2 to 4 inches of snow, but that's going to be really dictated on the amount of dry air that's going to be allowed to push in on this system. So, tentatively speaking, I would say 2 to 4 inches here along the Grand Strand, but locally higher amounts right now. Take that with a grain of salt because it's probably going to change over the next 24 hours, and I really don't want to give you a number that I'm sticking with because let's take a look at models here and see what the model runs are showing. So we'll bring up total snowfall, and we'll do that as a 10-to-1 ratio. I think we could be greater than that, but we're going to run that out for the storm here, the duration of the storm. And this will be through let's run it through 10 a.m. on Monday. Okay, so this makes sure that we're far enough out in the future to take a look here. The Euro is shown 3.8 inches, Florence 5.8 inches, Columbia 4.8, Rock Hill 5.5. So staying between that 2 to 5 inches here for the majority of South Carolina. But like I said, let's compare that to the GFS. Let's go to the latest runs here. Let's see. The GFS is showing 5.4, 5.7. Look up here in Fayetteville, 12.4 inches. Could see some more of that moist air working in and heavier bands of snow pushing in to those areas. So the UK, 6.5 inches. So everything's staying pretty conservative here. We can look at the National Weather Service blend of models here. Let's go to ensembles here. We'll look at the blend of models and see what that's showing us for storm totals, and we'll go over ensembles here. So this will take this will take many of the recent runs and put them all together and kind of give you an average of what you'd be looking like for snow totals. But I'm not going to give my forecast on that yet because I'm not quite sold on the snow totals yet until we start seeing a little bit closer about how much dry air is going to be pushed into the system. But dry air is not our best friend, but it might push a little bit more moisture in, which would be our best friend when it comes to people who love to see large accumulations of snow. So models have changed over the last 24 hours. Yesterday, GFS was spitting out crazy numbers. Some of them, not even just the GFS, was spitting out crazy numbers. So here's the ensemble members here, and the European AI out through Monday at 7 a.m., 5.2 inches here in Myrtle Beach, 5.1 in Florence. Again, the European, standard European 3.8, 5.8 in Florence. Maybe some of those heavier bands, a little bit more moisture. The GFS 5.4, still showing that 12.4 inches in Fayetteville. The Icon 9.7 here along the beaches. And the National Weather Service blend of models 4.9 inches. So this is the average of what they're looking at as far as total accumulation. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to that as of right now, but that dry air is really going to be the biggest factor in that, and the role player in this. So let's, I want to bring that dry air in a little bit closer here, and I got to bring up the, we're going to go with the GFS first. We're going to take a look at, I need to back out just a little bit, probably regional. I don't know if it's going to pick up or not on that dry air here, regional. We'll see here. I'm hoping we can get, yeah, upper air moisture. There we go. So we'll take a look at what that moisture looks like locally here, or regionally if you want to go there. But we'll back this out to, here's Friday overnight. Got some dry air pumping in to the area as we work through Friday night. A couple pockets of some moisture start working through, and that's where we're looking to see maybe some of those snow showers start to work in, like we were seeing on the model runs earlier. And then dry air really starts to pump in, and this is in the upper levels. So this is going to suppress a little bit of that moisture up high that is able to freeze and fall as snow. So we want to watch how much is being suppressed up high, because that's going to impact the amount of precipitation that we see. Here's Saturday early overnight into early morning hours. Here's 7 a.m. on Saturday. We got a pretty good amount of dry air in the area. And then eventually you see some of that moisture build in here Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then again, dry air filters in. But here, right before we end the system here and before the low pressure system starts to work up the East Coast, you start to see a little bit more of that moisture start pumping in. So the last several hours of this storm could be the most impactful hours compared to the rest of the storm. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to see any snow and that this is going to just end everything, but it's going to mess with our accumulations. And that's really why I'm pointing this out tonight, because I'm going to be very conservative on total accumulations until I see things change a little bit. I'm not just going to jump on that bandwagon of it's going to be a blizzard and we're going to have tons of snow. So want to make sure that we're being cautious on what we're predicting as far as total accumulations. So everybody's going to see snow. There's no doubt in my mind. That's pretty much set in stone. It's just the amount of snow that we're going to be seeing throughout the evening and overnight hours on Saturday is going to depict the amount of accumulation. So really, at this point, the good news is we finally get our snowstorm 1 year later, 1 year and about 2 weeks later from last year's storm. And we're going to see snow again here. And it might be a pretty impactful storm for the Grand Strand. So definitely don't want to say that we're not going to be getting anything. So the naysayers can just kind of exit the live stream right now, because we're going to see that snow. And I couldn't be more excited. I'm a snow lover. And I know many of you that are tuning in tonight are also snow lovers. So I'm definitely excited about that. Let's take a look here on radar here. We're going to pull up the overall impact here for the winter weather impact. And this is going to go through days 1 through 3 here. We'll pull that out days 1 through 3. And you can see, I can blow this screen up here. Let me get rid of these models. And you can see this day 1 through 3, we are under the major impacts here along the Grand Strand, and even as far west as Greenville, seeing some of those major impacts here. And moving up into North Carolina, you've got over here, we've got extreme impacts here as far south as Jacksonville, South or North Carolina, all the way up through Kill Devil Hills. Seeing those those extreme impacts. So everybody along the eastern portions of North Carolina and South Carolina are going to see major impacts of snowfall. So we're definitely in it for the weekend, and it's not going to change a whole lot. I don't see this changing a whole lot as we go through the next couple days, but we're going to be watching these areas very, very closely here, and we will be chasing some form of snow here over the next couple days. We're just trying. I haven't pinpointed the exact location. I think I'd like to stay right here along the Grand Strand and cover Myrtle Beach by itself, since we're definitely going to be seeing some of those impacts. So we'll definitely see where we're going to be. I'm definitely not heading to North Carolina. We are Myrtle Beach aware. I'm here to keep you guys aware of what's going on. The difference was last week we were dealing with ice a little bit west out there towards that 95. So I wanted to go out there and cover that. So we'll be focusing here a little bit closer to home as we go through this weekend, because that's where the snow is going to be occurring. So um, thank you guys for tuning in. That's really all I have for tonight. We'll have a little bit more tomorrow night, a little bit deeper dive into some accumulations, hopefully, as long as I can be confident that what I'm seeing as far as that dry air is going to allow me to be able to hone in just a little bit more on what those totals might look like for us. And by Saturday morning, I'll pretty much have it all nailed down, and we'll be in the thick of it, in ready mode and ready to go chase some snow. So multiple live streams coming. We will be covering all weekend long. So there's you guys won't miss a moment. I'm gonna try to have the 24-hour Coastal Cast backup live. We've been doing some updates to that, and making things better. We want to make Myrtle Beach aware the number one place to come get information. So we're always improving. Every time we get some donations from people, we're investing money into the system and getting things to be a little more automated, a little bit better, and really honing in on the current conditions and what's going on in Myrtle Beach outside of just chasing storms. So we want you to be able to find things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we're working on that. I will be back live tomorrow night around 8ish. I know I say 8 p.m., but usually it's a couple minutes past 8. That countdown timer will be on. You know exactly when. So if you tune in and the countdown timer is on, go right ahead and mark that time down and come back in 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll be live talking. So that's really all I have for tonight. Like I said, winter storm watches are in effect, and that covers and encompasses the entire state of South Carolina and most of North Carolina and Virginia as well. So down into Atlanta and covering those areas as well. So I suspect here as we get into Friday afternoon, Friday evening, we'll see those winter storm warnings start to be issued for most of the area. So the winter storm watches are updating here right now. That's why it's blinking. So we'll keep a close eye on all of that. Let me go in here and see something really quick. Let's just check and make sure some of these that are blinking. So we do have those winter storm warnings issued here for western North Carolina and into Tennessee and Kentucky. So those were just brought. They were issued here today. So that's why that was blinking earlier. Not sure. I think it was just the watches that were updating there for North Carolina. But we're going to be keeping a close eye on everything. Like I said, I'll see you guys tomorrow night shortly after 8 p.m. We'll be posting updates throughout the day, so tune in often to our Facebook page, and we'll keep you updated on the latest of what's going on with our winter storm. So you guys stay safe, and I'll make sure you stay aware.